Picture this. You're walking into a patient's room. They're sitting on the edge of the bed, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the floor. Their family is in the corner, tense and silent. You can feel the weight of the room before anyone says a word. Now, what happens next depends entirely on something that was never taught in your textbooks. Something that won't show up on your certification exam. Something that most hospitals assume you already have, but never actually train you for. Welcome back to MAP, Medical Pathways for Success. I'm your host, Fred Nazario Alvarado. And today, we're talking about soft skills, the behaviors and attitudes that separate people who just work in healthcare from those who thrive in it. And before we go further, I need you to hear this. Soft skills training is no longer optional. In today's healthcare environment, it has become a non-negotiable skill set for all healthcare professionals. The industry is demanding it, employers are screening for it, and patients? They're choosing based on it. That's right. Patients now have options. They choose where they receive their healthcare, and they're choosing organizations they feel valued, heard, and respected. They're choosing providers who make them feel like more than just a number, which means your soft skills don't just affect patient satisfaction. They affect whether patients come back, whether they follow your recommendations, and ultimately, whether they heal. Here's something that should concern all of us. Studies show that nearly half of new healthcare employees underperform within their first 18 months on the job. And it's not because they lack clinical knowledge. It's because of soft skills. Things like worth ethic, communication, and how they interact with others. And there's another trend we need to talk about. Research has found a decline in empathy among healthcare students as they progress through their education. An overly technical approach has slowly replaced the spontaneous, humane attitude that brought most of us into this field in the first place. I don't want that to happen to you. Your certification can get you hired, but your soft skills determine how you rise and whether you stay connected to the reason you chose healthcare in the first place. The good news? Soft skills are not personality traits you're either born with or without. They're learnable, practical abilities that you can strengthen with intention. And when you do, everything else shifts. You stop surviving your shifts and start thriving in them. You stop dreading difficult patients and start connecting with them. You become the person patients trust, coworkers rely on, and leaders look to when it's time for something bigger. Let me paint two pictures for you. Without these skills, healthcare feels like a constant battle. Patients don't trust you. Coworkers don't support you. Every difficult interaction leaves you frustrated, and you drive home replaying moments you wish you handled differently. You start to wonder if you're even cut out for this. But with these skills, everything shifts. You walk into difficult rooms with confidence instead of dread. Patients open up to you. Coworkers see you as someone they can count on. And at the end of the shift, you don't just feel like you did your job, you feel like you made a difference. And here's something else. These skills don't just make you better at your job. They make you the person who gets recommended for promotions, invited to lead projects, and trusted with more responsibility. Soft skills are career skills. That's what's at stake today. So let's get into it. If there's one skill that impacts every single interaction you have in healthcare, it's communication. And I don't just mean talking. I mean conveying something in a way that patients truly understand and your team can act on with confidence. Here's a truth that's easy to forget. When you're busy, we get so focused on fixing the problem that we forget to take the time and get to know the patient. We're checking boxes, completing tasks, moving to the next room, and somewhere along the way, that human in front of us becomes invisible. But when you communicate well, you change that. You reduce misunderstandings, you prevent errors, and most importantly, you make people feel safe. In healthcare, that sense of safety is one of the greatest gifts you can offer. Research consistently shows that strong communication generates trust, improves patient adherence to treatment, reduces mistakes, decreases conflicts, and leads to better outcomes overall. So how do we communicate at that level? Let me walk you through it. One of the most powerful things you can do is simply slow down when you're explaining something to a patient. Think about it. Patients rarely receive information when they're calm. Most of the time, they're scared, distracted by pain, overwhelmed, or processing news they weren't prepared for. If your words come too fast or sound too clinical, the message gets lost before it even lands. But when you take a breath and slow your pace, something shifts. You create space for their anxiety to settle. You give them time to absorb what you're saying. And when you use everyday language instead of medical jargon, you remove another layer of fear. Because suddenly, they understand. Picture this. A patient just received a diagnosis they weren't expecting. Their mind is racing. You could rush through the next steps and move on to the next task, or you could pause, lower your voice just slightly, and say, I know this is a lot to take in. Let's go through this together, one step at a time. That moment of intention can transform their entire experience. After you explain something important, take a few seconds to check for understanding. Say something like, I want to make sure I explain that clearly. Does that make sense so far? Or, let's go over that together one more time. These simple phrases communicate two things. You care enough to make sure they truly understand, and you're not just rushing them through a moment that feels enormous to them. A patient who understands their instructions feels empowered. A patient who doesn't will walk away confused, embarrassed to ask questions, and unsure of what to do next. That confusion can follow them home and affect their recovery. In urgent situations, communication looks different. Your team doesn't need long explanations. They need clear, direct information they can act on immediately. This is where closed-loop communication becomes essential. It's a technique where you confirm that a message was both heard and understood by repeating it back. In practice, it sounds like, BP now, got it. Or in a code, confirming 4 milligrams epi IV. I can't tell you how many times this single style of communication has made the difference between chaos and control. Imagine a fast-moving moment where someone calls out, give 4. In the rush, someone thinks they heard, give 40. Without closed-loop communication, that mistake could go unnoticed until it's too late. That 1 second of clarity prevents confusion, prevents harm, and keeps everyone aligned when the stakes are highest. And here's something we don't talk about enough. Patients remember your presence just as much as your words, sometimes even more. The way you enter a room sets the tone immediately. When you walk in rushed or distracted, patients feel it, even if they can't name it. But when you walk in steady, with open body language and your full attention on them, it sends a message. You matter, and I'm here with you. Even silence can be healing. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer is a pause. Space for the patient to process, feel, or simply breathe. Because here's what I've learned in my years in healthcare. We don't just administer medication and turn on monitors. We place a caring hand on another human being and say, I know you're scared. I'm here with you. And that's great medicine too. I want you to sit with something. There will be moments in your career when your words are the last thing a patient hears before a procedure, before a difficult diagnosis, or before they close their eyes for surgery. What do you want those words to be? Make them count. Communication builds trust, and when you get it right, it changes everything about how patients experience your care. But here's the thing. How you communicate depends entirely on something deeper, something that shapes every interaction before you ever open your mouth. It determines whether a difficult moment becomes connection or conflict, whether you respond with calm or react from pressure. I'm talking about emotional intelligence, the ability to understand your emotions, manage them, and use that awareness to bring steadiness to the people around you. Everything begins with self-awareness, recognizing what you're feeling before those emotions start speaking to you. Maybe you're frustrated because the shift is short-staffed. Maybe you're anxious because you're running behind. Or maybe you're carrying something heavy from home. All of that is real. None of it makes you weak. But self-awareness helps you notice those emotions early, so they don't dictate the tone you bring into a patient's room. It's the difference between snapping at a coworker because you're stressed and pausing to choose a calmer response, between walking into a room with tension in your shoulders and resetting your energy to meet your patients with presence. Once you recognize what you're feeling, you need to learn how to regulate it. Self-regulation isn't about ignoring your emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about keeping your internal world steady, enough that your external actions stay professional and compassionate. In healthcare, things escalate quickly. A patient might be frustrated. A provider might give instructions abruptly. A family member may raise their voice out of fear. Emotional intelligence gives you the power to pause, even for a moment, and choose how you respond instead of reacting instinctively. That pause prevents argument, calms tense situations, and protects your professionalism. At the core of what we do is empathy. The ability to truly understand the feelings of another person and see beyond their symptoms. Every patient is carrying something. Fear of a diagnosis, pain they can't describe, the discomfort of being vulnerable in a medical setting. When you show up with empathy, you're not just providing care, you're providing comfort. But here's the challenge. Research shows that empathy actually declines in many healthcare students as they progress through their training. The technical demand slowly pushes out the human connection that brought us here in the first place. Don't let that happen to you. Empathy means meeting people where they are emotionally, not where you want them to be. Some patients need reassurance, and others need space. Some may require a calm voice, while others need confident direction. Empathy helps you sense what each person needs and adjust your approach without making them feel judged. And empathy isn't just about patience. When you approach coworkers with empathy, you start to understand why someone might be quieter today, why they're moving slower, or why they seem overwhelmed. Everyone is carrying something. When the team gives each other grace, the whole unit becomes stronger. Here's something I've learned over the years. Your patients will forget what medication you gave them. They'll forget the name of the test you ran, but they will never forget how you made them feel when they were scared and vulnerable. That memory stays with them, and it stays with their families long after they leave your care. Now let's discuss social awareness. Social awareness is your internal radar. You walk into a room and before anyone speaks, you notice posture, breathing, silence, tension. You sense when a family member wants answers but is too overwhelmed to ask. You feel when a coworker is drowning even though they're trying to look composed. When you're socially aware, you respond appropriately, not automatically. You adjust based on what the moment requires. This awareness also helps you understand timing. Even the right message delivered at the wrong moment can land badly. Social awareness helps you know when to speak, when to pause, and when to wait. And here's something we don't talk about enough: boundaries. People think boundaries means caring less. The truth is the opposite. Boundaries allow you to care more sustainably. In healthcare, you're surrounded by pain, fear, and loss. If you carry all that home, shift after shift, you'll eventually feel overwhelmed, exhausted, or numb. One of the most powerful things I've heard a healthcare professional say is this: the outcome is not ours, but the obedience is. In other words, we do everything in our power for our patients. We show up fully. We give our best, but we cannot carry the weight of every outcome on our shoulders. Boundaries means knowing what emotional weight belongs to you and what doesn't. You can care deeply without absorbing every patient's fears as your own. You can empathize without drowning. When you honor your boundaries, you become more present, more sustainable, and more aligned with the caregiver you want to be. So now that you've got communication, you've got emotional awareness, you know how to stay present and protect your boundaries. But here's the reality. Healthcare doesn't care how steady you feel. It's going to throw something at you that you didn't see coming. A patient will crash, a schedule will change, or a crisis will land in your lap without warning. And that's where our next skill becomes essential: adaptability. Workflows shift, staffing changes, technology evolves, protocols update, and patient volume spikes without warning. The COVID-19 pandemic proved just how fast everything can change overnight. Adaptability isn't a bonus, it's a necessity. Adaptability begins before the change ever reaches you. It starts with how you think about change. You can see change as an inconvenience, or you can see it as an opportunity to grow. One mindset leads to stress and resentment, while the other leads to confidence and leadership. The people who adapt quickly aren't always the most experienced. They're the ones who approach change with curiosity instead of resistance. They ask questions, they explore, they learn. I know that's easier said than done. When you're planning your day and everything falls apart, your first instinct is frustration. That's human. But the difference between surviving and thriving is what you do in the 5 seconds after that frustration hits. True adaptation shows up when the unexpected hits. And in healthcare, the unexpected is guaranteed. Picture this. You arrive for your shift. You've got your assignment. You've mentally mapped out your day, which patients you'll see first, when you'll chart, how you'll manage your time. Then 30 minutes in, everything changes. A patient deteriorates, you're floated to another unit, or half the staff calls out sick. In that moment, you have a choice. The person who resists, they spend the rest of the shift stressed, frustrated, and constantly behind. Every new change feels like a personal attack on their plan. The person who adapts, they take a breath, reassess their priorities, and find their footing. They say, okay, this is what's happening now. What do I need to do next? And they move forward. That second person, that's who leaders notice. That's who teams rely on. And that's who you want to become. Here's something that might surprise you. One of the most important parts of adaptability is simply being present. So much of the time in healthcare, we're mentally 8 patients down the road. We're thinking about what we haven't done yet, what's coming up next, what might go wrong. Our bodies are in one room, but our minds are scattered across the unit. Adaptability starts with pulling yourself back to this moment, this patient, this task. When you're fully present, you respond to what's actually happening, not what you're afraid might happen. You see solutions you would have missed, and you handle disruptions with a steadiness that calms everyone around you. That presence, it's a skill. And like every other skill we're talking about today, you can build it with practice. Here's a simple technique. Before you walk into any room, take one breath and ask yourself, what does this patient need from me right now? That 5-second reset pulls you out of the chaos and anchors you in the present. Teams notice who stays steady when things get unpredictable. Leaders remember who keeps their composure during difficult moments. That reputation opens doors. Adaptability protects your well-being. If you expect every shift to go perfectly, you'll end every day exhausted. But when you learn to flow with the day instead of fighting it, challenges become manageable instead of overwhelming. Adaptability keeps you steady when the ground shifts beneath you. But even the most adaptable person can't carry everything alone. Healthcare was never meant to be a solo journey. It's a team sport, built on trust, shared responsibilities, and a commitment to lifting each other up when the weight gets heavy. Let's talk about teamwork. Teamwork doesn't mean everyone does the same thing. It means recognizing that every person has strengths, limitations, and moments when they need support. Some days, you'll have the bandwidth to step in. Other days, you'll need someone to catch you. Teamwork isn't about keeping score. It's about keeping each other upright. Picture this. It's hour 10 of a brutal shift. Your coworker just got their 3rd difficult patient in a row. You can see it on their face. They're barely holding on. You could focus on your own task, or you could walk over and say, I've got this one. Take a breath. That moment, that's real teamwork. Now let me show you the other side, because I've seen it, and I'm guessing you have too. When teamwork breaks down, everything suffers. Communications get missed, tasks fall through the cracks. The environment becomes tense, and the tension spreads to every interaction, including with patients. I've seen units where the attitude is, that's not my job, where people protect their own tasks instead of supporting the team. And you know what happens? Burnout increases. Turnover skyrockets, and patients feel it. They sense the disconnection, the friction, and the lack of unity. It shakes their confidence in the care they're receiving. Here's a truth I learned early in my career. Nurses don't operate in a silo. Neither do medical assistants, phlebotomists, or any other healthcare professional. Patients are dynamic. What they need changes moment to moment, and meeting those needs requires all of us working together. That means being respectful to the respiratory therapist, the CNA, the physical therapist, even housekeeping and dietary. Every single person on the team is integral to patient care. When you treat them that way, the whole unit rises. Your attitude is contagious. When you walk in with frustration, you shift the tone of the entire shift. But when you walk in with intention and willingness to collaborate, you set a positive tone for everyone. Ask yourself, am I adding to the team's strength today, or adding to their stress? That question isn't meant to guilt you. It's meant to ground you, because on the days when you're the one struggling, you're going to want teammates who ask themselves the same question. When a team works well together, patients sense it. They feel the harmony, the respect, the smooth communication. It builds their confidence in the care they're receiving. But they also sense when a team is disconnected. When there's tension or miscommunication, that energy increases their anxiety. Teamwork doesn't just affect your coworkers, it affects your patients. When your team is strong, even the hardest shifts feel manageable. You're not carrying the weight alone, and neither is anyone else. But here's the thing. There's something you have to bring on your own. Something that shapes how people see you before they ever witness your clinical skills. Something that builds trust and follows you throughout your entire career. I'm talking about professionalism. It's the standard you hold yourself to, not because someone is watching, but because it reflects who you are. Professionalism starts with ownership of your actions, your words, and your role. It means showing up on time, prepared, and ready to give your best even when your energy is low. It means following through on commitments, and it means being honest about mistakes instead of hiding them. Accountability doesn't weaken your credibility, it builds it. When people know you'll take responsibility, they trust you more deeply. Early in my career, I thought professionalism meant being perfect, never making mistakes, never showing weakness. It took me years to learn that that's not what professionalism is at all. Professionalism isn't about being flawless. It's about being honest when you fall short. It's about owning your mistakes instead of hiding them. And it's about showing up with integrity even when no one's watching. The professionals I admire most aren't the ones who never stumbled. They're the ones who took responsibility when they did. Professionalism shows in how you treat people, especially under pressure. It's easy to be kind on a good day. Your true professionalism shows when the shift is short-staffed, someone's tone is off, and your patience is being tested. Do you stay respectful? Do you remain composed? Do you treat everyone with dignity? That's professionalism in its purest form. Professionalism isn't just big gestures. It's the small moments most people overlook. The way you enter a room, maintaining confidentiality, charting accurately when you're tired, your tone when someone asks a question for the third time. These moments quietly build your reputation every single day. Here's what makes professionalism powerful. It follows you everywhere. It's the reason some people get recommended for promotions, invited to new teams, and trusted with responsibilities before their resume is ever reviewed. Your professionalism becomes a legacy, one that opens doors and earns respect without you ever having to ask. Here's something to carry with you. 10 years from now, no one will remember your test scores. They won't remember how fast you could draw blood or how perfectly you charted. But they will remember if you were someone that they could count on. They'll remember how you treated people when things got hard, and they'll remember the kind of professional and the kind of person you chose to be. That's your legacy, and you're building it right now, one shift at a time.
It's time for your map moment, a quick little push to keep you going. Stay focused, keep strong, your pathway to success is on.
We've covered a lot today. Communication, emotional intelligence, adaptability, teamwork, and professionalism. 5 skills that don't show up on your certification exams, but quietly shape your entire career. Now here's the truth. Knowledge alone doesn't change anything. You can listen to this episode, nod along, and go right back to doing what you've always done. Or you can make a decision, right now, to grow from this. Transformation starts with intention. So here's your Map Moment challenge. Choose one soft skill from today, just one, and commit to strengthening it this week. Communication? Slow down with one patient. Check for understanding before you leave the room. Practice closed-loop responses when things get urgent. Emotional intelligence. Pause before reacting, just once per shift, and consciously choose your response instead of letting your emotions choose for you. Adaptability. The next time plans change unexpectedly, catch yourself before you spiral. Take a breath and say, okay, what's next? Instead of resisting what you can't control. Teamwork? Look for one coworker who's struggling and step in without being asked. Sometimes, I've got this one, take a breath, is the most powerful thing you can say. Professionalism. Show up 5 minutes early. Come prepared. Be mentally present before you ever walk through those doors. 1 week, one skill. Watch what shifts. And here's your second win. A tool I want you to take with you and use every single day. I call it the soft skills self-check. 3 questions to ask yourself at the end of each shift. 1. Did I communicate with clarity and compassion today? 2. Did I respond thoughtfully or react emotionally? 3. Did I show up as the professional I'm becoming? You know that drive home after a shift? When your mind starts replaying the day. What went well? What didn't? What you wish you'd done differently? Use that time intentionally. Ask yourself these 3 questions. Not to judge yourself, but to grow. Reflect on what worked, and acknowledge what you could do better tomorrow. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. And over time, that daily reflection becomes the foundation of everything. Your confidence, your growth, and the kind of healthcare professional you're becoming. Write these questions down. Put them in your locker, on your badge, or on a note in your phone. Ask them every shift, because every time you reflect with intention, you're not just finishing a shift, you're shaping your future. If you take on this challenge, if you choose one skill and commit to working on it this week, I want to hear about it. Send me an email at mattpodcast@outlook.com or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search Matt Podcast Official. Share which skill you're focusing on and what's shifting for you. Because here's what I've discovered. When you share your commitment with someone else, you're more likely to follow through. And your story, your growth, might be exactly the encouragement someone else needs to keep going on their own journey. We're building something here. Not just a podcast, a community of healthcare professionals who are committed to growing, learning, and becoming the best versions of themselves. I'd be honored to have you be a part of it. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and for making the choice to grow, not just as a healthcare professional, but as a person. The soft skills we talked about aren't just tools to add to your toolkit. They're the qualities that shape how you care, how you lead, and how you rise. They're the difference between someone who simply works in healthcare and someone who thrives in it. Every time you strengthen even one of these skills, even in a small way, you're building a career you can be proud of. You're becoming someone patients trust, coworkers lean on, and leaders notice. Remember, your technical skills make you qualified, but your soft skills make you unforgettable. These are the qualities that turn ordinary shifts into meaningful moments, coworkers into real teammates, and patients into people who feel genuinely seen and cared for. And at the end of the day, that's what this work is really all about. Not just administering care, but being the kind of caregiver who changes lives, including your own. Before you go, I want to tell you about next week's episode, because it's one of the most important conversations we'll have on this podcast. Next week, we're talking about identity in healthcare. And this isn't just about making you a better provider. It's about making you a better human being. Because the way we see people, the language we use, the respect we show, or don't show, can either heal or harm. I'm going to share a story from my own personal experience. A moment I've never forgotten. A moment that taught me one of the hardest lessons of my career. That in healthcare, silence is a choice. And sometimes, it causes real harm. But here's the hope. We can do better. We can learn. We can grow. And we can choose every single day to create spaces where every patient feels safe, seen, and respected. Make sure you're subscribed, because next week's episode will challenge you, move you, and remind you why this work is about so much more than medicine. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep following your map, your medical pathway for success.